Okay, here I am, Monday morning again, and a lot of the schools in the area have late starts, so it's kind of interesting to see. I think they've got all the roads cleared though that they're supposed to clear, although the side roads they don't clear until seems like 2 days later. Anyway, talking about this class, so we're talking about choosing technology for learning. In the last few weeks, you've been learning about instructional design, the ADDIE model, we'll put it that way, task-centered learning, and the SAMR model. So now the objective really is for you to discuss the importance of each of the models, and then talk about how they would guide your integration of technology into teaching and learning processes. So that's something to be aware of for sure. You're going to read chapters 1 and 2 from the textbook, and that's just kind of some introductory chapters about these same topics. I think they have a lot to do with choosing technology for learning if you look at them. And then the models and tools presentation is due this week, and that'll be kind of the meat of what you do this week with your activities in work. So basically, you're going to take the time to record a presentation and share what each model basically, for each model, you're going to briefly summarize the model in your own words. So for instance, the ADDIE model, what are the A, D, D, I, and E elements? Or for task-centered learning, you'll share about how learning is centered on real-world tasks, how there is application, demonstration, activation, integration, those types of things. Share what those all mean, summarize the model, and then the SAMR model as well, substitution, augmentation, and so forth. And tell the major aspects of the model, and again, explain. That's what I'm talking about too. I think, summarizing the model and then tell the major aspects of the model. Well, summarize the model by saying, okay, ADDIE is a model for designing instruction, and then tell the major aspects by saying A, D, D, I, and E. What are those? What do they stand for? And SAMR, for instance, what do those elements stand for? Okay, what do they mean? What does modification or redefinition mean? And then tell how the model might guide your choices of what technological tools to use for teaching and learning. So the models themselves might lean you toward the types of tools, technology-wise, that you might want to learn with that model or you might want to use with that model. And so how would that model guide your choices of the technologies you might use for teaching and learning? For instance, one example, maybe kind of a spoiler, is that task-centered learning would lend you toward maybe finding technologies that instead of just reading from or learning from, you're going to create a task or do a task with the technology. So you'll be leaning more toward doing using technologies that allow you to complete tasks rather than the kind that just allow you to learn from them or watch them. And then tell how the model guides the use of technology in the actual teaching and learning process. Now these might overlap, these last two, but you could talk also about how once you're in a task-centered learning situation, how you might use the technology itself. Or once you're in a situation, with ADDIE, for instance, you're designing, developing, and implementing instruction. How might the ADDIE model guide you with the type of tool and how to use the tool in the teaching and learning process? And SAMR is pretty easy. SAMR is probably a big one for doing this. Like, okay, how should I be using tools, technology tools for the teaching and learning of my students, or in a similar situation, or any teaching and learning situation? How would SAMR guide me to do that? And of course, it would tell you that you need to be using technology on the higher levels of SAMR, the modification, redefinition. So this is how you'll be graded on this project, and I just wanted to give you a little intro to recording as well. I'm using this thing called, I'm going to bring this over in here, this thing called OBS Studio. And OBS Studio is actually open source and free software. It's pretty nice for recording your screen. That's why you get to see my wonderful face. Hello. And that's a tool that you could download and use, although the learning curve for using OBS Studio is a little bit harder on some things. So that's something to be aware of. But what I'm telling you to use for this is probably the best tool anyway, is Screencast-O-Matic. And you can go to Screencast-O-Matic's website with screen recorder and video editor. And I can click on that and then Start recording for free is basically the button that you click. Now, in some cases, there can be some systems, depending on which computer you're on, there can be some problems with launching the recorder. But I'm going to hit Launch Free Recorder. And in a lot of cases, it just works. It pops up and allows you to record on your screen using this software, which is pretty nice. So here we go. It says starting up. And recorder launched. So it's going to update on my computer, clearly. And let's hope it pops up the way that it should. And here we go. We have Screencast-O-Matic up, and I've got an old recording that I don't need anymore. I'm going to have to launch it again, I guess, because I had an old recording that I didn't need. So again, launching the recorder. Hopefully it comes up pretty quick. It's something that kind of takes over your computer a little bit and says, here we go, we're going to run a recorder on it. All right, here we are. Now you can choose what you want to record, whether it's the screen, the webcam, or both. I think my suggestion would just be the screen, and then you can, that way you can show like a presentation or like a PowerPoint type presentation. Whatever's on your screen it will show. The maximum time that you can record is just 15 minutes, so that's one thing to be aware of, unless you want to buy extra time, or pay money to the Screencast-O-Matic people. And then size, full screen, you can choose like a smaller part of your screen, but most of the time when I record I just do full screen. And then narration, you can choose the microphone that you would like to hear, like people to hear or listen to. And then once you've chosen everything, you just hit record, and it will count down 3, 2, 1, and there we go. And now we're recording whatever's on our screen. So if I was going to do a PowerPoint, for instance, I bring up my PowerPoint presentation, maybe change the screen, however I need to do it so that I can get this done, and then do my presentation on Addy or Sammer or whatever else. And then when I'm done with my presentation, there's the pause button here. By the way, there's not really a way to edit the recording afterward with any of these options that I'm showing you. Even OBS Studio doesn't really have an editor. And the idea there is just to kind of make it a less formal presentation. I mean, if you make a mistake, maybe just go back and fix it while you're recording still, rather than having to restart a whole bunch of times, unless there's a really big mistake, that you definitely don't want to include. So when you're done recording, you can click Done here. It'll give you the recording. You can watch it and push play down here to watch it. And then you can save it as a video file onto your computer, upload it to YouTube, or upload to Screencast-O-Matic. What I want you to do is just go ahead and get it up online somewhere, whether it's Screencast-O-Matic or YouTube, and then you can just give me the link to it in wherever you want to, in the Dropbox. So you can put a document up there with the link to your recording. That way, if you don't want to be up online though, that's okay too. You can save it as a video file and just upload the video file to the Dropbox as well. And that doesn't put your voice and face online if you don't want to be online. So that's how to do that. And I'm going to delete that recording. I don't need it anymore. But you can also do an audio recording if you want to. You could do something like a podcast, or use, there's even Sound Recorder in Windows, or there's a program called Audacity to record that as well. But I think that's the major activity for this week, is to get this presentation done. What I would do is go ahead and write out an outline of how you want to talk about the different tools. Make sure you have all the information you need to share written out or put somewhere that you can refer to. And that will help you to go through the presentation smoothly as you record. All right, I think that's about it. So have a great week, and good luck getting started.